Hey everybody, it's a Mad Master here. I'm doing a video today, and this video is kind of about some really bad stuff that happened yesterday online with me and like social media, and how bad it made me feel about myself, which made me not perform in what I was talking about in my previous video, like literally not perform. And this is a big problem because like I get sucked into these rabbit holes, and then I'm very self-conscious, and I'm just kind of go back in my turtle shell, right? So it's kind of in response, and it's kind of I wouldn't say a letter to myself, but just like a realization that I've had that I need to stick with, because I think what happens is, like, as I did come a lot from the left part of the spectrum in the past. What is that sound? I gotta close the window all the way. It's like as I did come from that part of the spectrum, I get sucked into a lot of still about a lot of what these arguments are about, and then I question myself, and then I get all like confused. And this is just a realization that the SJW view on reality, or the woke version of gender politics, dating, sexuality, is highly flawed. And what I mean is that there was this meme. I subscribed to this page on Facebook, this Lizzie the Leslie. She's like, it was like this Twitter post by this woman that said, "I taught my son how to get true consent because he said after a girl told him no on a date, he didn't say no, he didn't ask again." And I'm like, this is so unnuanced. Now, if you're creeping out someone, then yeah, walk away, whatever. I agree with that. But some friends of mine, I've been married 20 years to women that wouldn't like, for example, to women that haven't been like affirmative in wanting to date them right away. And they asked again or in a different way, and it worked, and they've been married since. So this kind of notion that this ideal society that these people are trying to postulate in their head and project upon the world, that everything is affirmative consent that's worded every 5 seconds, like, please, can I date on a date with you? Can I touch you there? And then, oh, I'm sorry for asking you out. Now, like the player pickup artist thing would be like, yeah, GFTOW, go blank 10 other women, try to hit on more women, form a jealousy plot line, like get a hotter girl, and then flaunt her in front of this girl that rejected you, and then you'll have, possibility very highly that she'll like you a little more and say, oh, I wish we would have, I'm just saying that there's maybe some anecdotal / sort of science to that notion. I think it's hilarious. So yeah, this is kind of the thing with me. It's like I get sucked into these things, like these blog articles, these posts, and these feminist blogs, and like, don't approach women, don't talk to women you don't know, blah 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 blah. It's like, okay, well, I have countless examples of people that have been in relationships where there's somewhat, I mean, not countless, but a lot of relationships where people get into because they cold approach, or they take chances that are not necessarily like verboten by today's like ultra feminist standards. Like, for example, I'll give you another example of a very woke person that I know, actually, ironically enough. He one of his girlfriends in the past, he met because he was talking to her at a show, and her brother was in a band. And he actually messaged the fucking band to get her number because he didn't like complete the interaction as well at the show. So, like, oh my God, that's just so creepy. That's so creepy. And it's just like, people might think that's creepy to try to take those types of risks, or to try to, push that forward. But it's like, what are you going to say? Like, are you going to say, well, since they were in a relationship, I mean, she joked about getting married one day, like sort of joked, like, oh, if we're not married by this age, let's get married. Like, that's how strong at one point the relationship was. Of course, it fizzled out, but you know, it's like, because most relationships do, but it's like the point being is like, if you asked or like interviewed her, was that creepy? What did you feel violated that he emailed your brother to get your number? Did you feel like that was creepy? Are you traumatized? Are you going to be to him now? Oh, you know, like that kind of stuff. Like people that criticize a little bit of persistence or a little bit of, you know, of being a smartass or something. It's just like, what kind of world do they think that we should live in? And what kind of world do they believe we can live in? Because there will always be, as long as we live in a free and open society, unless human brains evolve beyond our animal-based instincts, which I don't know if we ever will. But you know, maybe if we eat the bugs, we'll live in a pod with AI and get merged, you know, whatever the technocrats want us to do, or supposedly or allegedly, I'm just saying. You know, I think at a certain point where you just be like, okay, enough is enough. You know, some people do things that are a little bit out of the ordinary to, you know, meet their partner, or they might like also, it's like with the affirmative consent, it's like, well, should I feel bad for my previous girlfriends because I didn't like ask them everything that happened? Because it just happened, as women are known to say a lot of the time, you know, or at least like in the past, Generation X, Xennial, and V4, you know, that's what the whole thing was. I mean, maybe Generation Z or Y or whatever are more forward and they can handle that. Like, can I have sex with you? Can I touch you? But like my generation didn't do that kind of stuff. I don't know if this is a thing or not. I mean, I don't really think it is. I don't know if our biological evolutionary thing has gone that far amiss, or whatever you want to think about it as. But like, I just don't understand. I just have to question these ideas, because I have to question them, and I have to come to terms that I do not buy into these agendas, because there's probably a small part of me, I'm doing the okay symbol, I'm all right, you know, there's a small part of me that kind of struggles with it and probably believes some of this shit. And that's the problem. It's like, because this is the type of person I am. I'm very pluralistic and like trying to understand all beliefs and believe all things at all times in a certain way. Like, oh, I could see that as part of the picture. You know, there's, you know, these puzzle piece that's in there. So I really struggle with that stuff, and it brings me down. And then with all their doubts about myself with regards to dating and just in general, it combines into this ball of shit of nothingness. It's almost like a spiked ball. I'm just kidding. But because it hits against my face and my brain, and I start thinking all this bad stuff, and I get really unconfident. This woman on this thread I was arguing with called me an incel, and it's the second time it's happened in like the last year where I was called an incel. And I don't really understand if they understand the term incel, what it means. As someone that used to like laugh at the True Force Loneliness videos, like when they were coming out, the early proto incel guys on YouTube, I don't really think they understand what incel means. I'm definitely not an incel. It's been a long time since I've had a date. It's been a long time since I've had a girlfriend. But I thought like incels are supposed to be virgins too and stuff. I don't really understand like why people would think I'm an incel with the way I argue and stuff. That's probably what it is. For some of the stuff I post, it's like, well, they don't really understand. And yeah, I post a lot of like controversial stuff sometimes. But anyways, I don't really care about them thinking I'm an incel, because I don't really, my definition of an incel is someone that just like gives up and doesn't take risks. But they have these different definitions of incel for whatever reason, because they read some stupid article that says, well, the incel movement, you don't know what an incel is. So trying to keep these videos shorter nowadays. You know, just to think about this whole thing, it's been a real struggle lately, because me trying to get back into dating in our modern culture, like, I'm not talking about 2016, like pre-election culture, because, you know, or 2015 or 20, I mean, I was concerned about some of this stuff, but I'm like, whatever. I was like able to push it away a little bit better, but now it's kind of affecting me. I was like, oh, I have the age thing to worry about too. I think I'm grooming them even though they're 28 years old, because I'm a little bit older than them. Oh my God, they read this blog post on Vox that said any age difference beyond 2 years is like evil and it's rapey. It's like, I got to get out of that shit, first of all, and get out of that whole mentality. And it's really tough. And it's like this black cloud that's over me about this stuff. There should be a black cloud right here, hopefully more as time goes on. I'm just kidding, a black cloud of hair. But yeah, it's just like really annoying that it makes me self-conscious and, you know, aware of all these things that I shouldn't be aware of. Because when I first got into like cold approaching back in the day, I was very much like, it was all my self-conscious stuff. It wasn't like other political stuff that got into my head. And that adds an extra layer of doubt, you know, and that's the problem. Because I was very naive. I was like reading all this stuff and Neil Strauss and all this stuff. I'm like, I'm gonna be a pickup artist one day and get laid all the time. And I always thought of it as like a temporary phase until I met my wife or, you know, long-term girlfriend or whatever. I never thought of it like, oh, I'm just gonna go out and definitely do this lifestyle. It just was like, well, you know, I had some really bad experiences with an ex-girlfriend that triggered, so to speak, my dalliance with this subculture, because it was, I should go into it, but like this girlfriend that I had, I could say a lot of stuff about her physically, like one way or the other. I'm not going to go into that. It definitely is, you know, I don't even think that that's even important in a certain way, because like, I'm just saying, like, it's not even that. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just her personality and her personality disorders or mental disorders. I got in a toxic situation for years with this woman, and I was like obsessed and had all these weird things, these weird thoughts, and we all both had this weird thing. And it was long distance too, and it was like, it just really damaged me as far as everything goes. So when I found out about all this, you know, all this dating like stuff from these guys, the seduction community or whatever you want to call it now. Of course, they call it the manosphere or whatever. But when I found out about that stuff, I'm like, this is a way out of all this stuff, because you're gonna, you know, finally have choice of who to date or, you know, who you want to meet, instead of settling into relationships where the first few weeks you're breaking each other's stuff. Or, you know, this is not my experience, but I'm just saying, like, just terrible things that I was raised, or that I grew up around, terrible situations. I'm like, this is a way out, because I have choice. Oh, well, if that girl's too crazy, I have this other number. You know, I'm not saying girls are crazy. I'm just saying this: if this thing doesn't work out, there's this other number I have. There's this other choice I have to deal, you know, that I can meet. People don't understand that concept, but that's the way that I think now, because I read all these books and stuff. So yeah, I'm not gonna back down from at least trying to like pluralize this experience that I've had that I'm having in life. And people don't like this idea, and they're very opposed to it. A lot of people think it's just terrible and all this stuff, and it's getting worse because people are like putting the microscope even further, you know, onto the page and seeing, oh, this is bad, this is problematic. I'm like, well, this is normal, like, day-to-day stuff that people do. I'm sorry if it's problematic or it's patriarchy or whatever, you know. It's like, I have to do what I have to do in my life, that I have choices. And this is going on 15 minutes now, but like, I'm not going to listen to people say that like what I'm doing in life is so terrible and horrible, when they're supporting people that want, you know, to fund an escalation that may lead to nuclear war, for example. When they have phones that are mined with cobalt and slave mines in Africa. Why? Who the fuck are you to judge me about my love life or what I'm pursuing? You know, It's like you read all these stupid books from your ivory tower, so gender studies department that don't even, it's not even real, and it totally contradicts a lot of biological science. Like, you could almost have like two different Ivy League people like debate this. Like, well, the brain does this at age 3. Why are you saying that doesn't? That's totally post-Marxist bullshit. So that's about all. Peace out.